Before the world comes knocking, before the deadlines pile up, before the drama and the distractions flood your mind, you have to speak to yourself loud and clear. You have to decide who you are and where you're going before the noise of the day decides it for you. The world will try to define you. People will put limits on you. Life will test you in ways you didn't see coming. And if you're not anchored, if you're not grounded in your own truth, you'll drift wherever the tide pushes you. That's why every single morning, before you scroll, before you sip your coffee, before you speak to another soul, you need to remind yourself of the truths that keep you steady. And the first one, the foundation, is this: I am responsible for my life. Say it out loud, say it again. Let the words roll around in your chest until they stop being just a sentence and start becoming a reality. I am responsible for my life. The moment you not only say it, but believe it, something inside you shifts. It's like a light flicks on in a room you didn't know was dark. You realize that no matter how much has happened to you, you still have a say in what happens next. But responsibility is not just a slogan you paint on your wall or a quote you save to your phone's wallpaper. It's a declaration. It's a contract you sign with yourself. It's the quiet, private commitment to stop outsourcing your future to circumstances, people, or luck. And make no mistake, life will test that commitment. It will hit you harder than you ever thought you could take. It will throw storms at you without warning. You will be blindsided by betrayals you never saw coming, setbacks you never deserved, and pain you never asked for. Some of you have lived through seasons so brutal that others would not have survived them. You've walked through fire and came out scarred, but still standing, not because you're weak, but because life is relentless and you refuse to be erased. You didn't choose the loss, the heartbreak, the disappointment. You didn't sign up for the struggle. But here's the hard truth. You are not responsible for what happened to you, but you are responsible for what you do with it. That's where your power lies. That's the turning point where victims become victors, where people who were crushed find a way to rise. Life doesn't knock gently and wait to be invited in. It barges through your door, unannounced, unapologetic, and leaves you standing in the aftermath with a mess you never asked for. You can't always control that part, but you can control the part that comes next. The question is not, why did this happen to me? The real question is, what am I going to do with what happened? Now, excuses will come, they always do, and they will sound good. They'll be dressed up in logic, wearing suits made of reasons, carrying briefcases full of justifications. If you listen too long, you'll start believing them. But excuses are nothing more than fear in disguise. Fear trying to sound smart. Fear trying to negotiate with your potential. They are your pain whispering to you that it's safer to stay where you are than to try again. And you have to be bold enough to call them out for what they are: lies. Lies that keep you stuck. Lies that trade your power for pity. Because when you live in excuses, you build yourself a prison out of your own story. You lock yourself in with the belief that you can't change anything until someone else does something first. That is the slowest path to nowhere. But accountability, that's a different kind of strength. Accountability is standing in front of the mirror, looking yourself dead in the eye and saying, no more blame. No more waiting on someone else to change my life. No more standing still. It's admitting, yes, I've been hurt, but I will not stay broken. Yes, I've been knocked down, but I will not live on the floor. That's the voice of someone who has decided to lead their life instead of being led by it. That's the voice of someone who knows the pen to their story is in their own hand. You are the author. You choose the words, you set the tone, you decide the ending. So stop handing the pen to people who hurt you. Stop letting fear write your next chapter. Don't let the past decide what's next. You take the pen with all your pain, all your joy, all your doubt, all your hope, and you write something powerful, something that belongs to you. Because the world will want to put you in a box. It will want to tell you that you are nothing more than what's been done to you. It will define you by your scars, by your struggles, by the mistakes someone else made that left a mark on your life. But you are not the wound. You are the fire that came after. You are the resilience that refused to stay buried. You are the strength that rose, not because it was easy, but because there was no other choice. And when you take responsibility for your life, you don't just take control. You take flight. You rise above the noise. You begin to operate from a place of choice instead of chance. You unlock the version of yourself that isn't ruled by fear or limited by doubt. You start to walk differently. You start to speak differently. Not because life suddenly became easier, but because you became stronger. You know that no one is coming to rescue you, because you are the rescue. You are the answer to your own prayers. The day you stop waiting for someone to save you is the day you start saving yourself. That's the moment your life shifts. That's the moment you go from living by default to creating with intention. You stop reacting to life like a punching bag and start responding like a builder. You stop surviving and start thriving. That's not theory, that's real. It's been studied, proven, measured. People who take ownership of their lives, who believe they are in control, who stop pointing fingers, those people perform better. They're more motivated, they're more focused, and they live with less stress. Why? Because even when the world shakes, their foundation doesn't. It's easy to get angry. It's easy to stew in resentment. It's easy to say, I'd be further if it wasn't for them. But none of that moves you forward. None of that builds your future. You only start moving when you take back the steering wheel and say, this is my life, and I'm the one driving it. That's why every morning, before you step into the chaos, you have to remind yourself again and again, I am responsible for my life. Not just when things are good, not just when the road is smooth, but especially when it's not. Because the moment you truly take responsibility is the moment you take back your power. And when you have that power, there is no storm strong enough to sink you. When you finally take responsibility for your life, you don't just take control. You take flight. Something in you shifts. You stop living like a passenger in your own story and start moving like the driver who knows exactly where they're headed. You unlock a version of yourself that isn't ruled by fear, isn't paralyzed by doubt, and isn't waiting for the perfect conditions to begin. You stop waiting for a sign from the universe because you realize you are the sign. You stop waiting for someone to come rescue you because you understand. No one is coming. You are the rescue. You are the one you've been waiting for. That realization is not a small one. It's massive. It changes the way you move through the world. Suddenly you're not just surviving. You're creating. You're building. You're making deliberate choices instead of reacting to whatever happens to land in your lap. You start to see that every single decision, no matter how small, is shaping your future. And the truth is, most people never get here because it's easier to wait for a savior than to step into the role yourself. We live in a culture that romanticizes the idea of being found or rescued. It shows up in movies, in stories, in the way people talk about luck or timing. But waiting for rescue is another form of surrender. It's giving away your power to forces outside of your control. And if you give away your power, you give away your future. The moment you own your life, you stop living on autopilot. You stop waking up every day with the same patterns, the same complaints, the same frustrations. You start to wake up with a sense of agency. You realize that you don't have to repeat yesterday just because it's familiar. You can create something new. You can change the script. You can decide how the next scene unfolds. That doesn't mean life will suddenly become easier. It won't. But you will become stronger. You will stop thinking of challenges as punishments and start seeing them as opportunities to grow. You'll stop fearing the discomfort that comes with change because you'll understand that discomfort is proof you're evolving. Growth isn't clean. It's not always comfortable. It will stretch you, push you, and sometimes break you down so it can rebuild you into someone stronger. It's like training a muscle. At first, the weight feels impossible. Your arms shake, you want to quit. But the more you lift, the stronger you get. And the stronger you get, the heavier the weight you can carry. Life works the same way. The situations that once crushed you start to feel lighter. Not because they changed, but because you did. Taking responsibility also means changing the way you talk to yourself. You stop using language that gives your power away. You stop saying, I can't because of them, or I'll start when this changes, or if only they would. Those phrases keep you stuck. They make you the supporting character in your own life. Responsibility forces you to flip the script and say, "This is my life, and I'm going to figure it out no matter what." That's the language of a leader, not a victim. It's easy to point fingers. It's easy to tell yourself that you would be further along if not for a specific person, place, or event. That's the comfortable narrative because it removes the pressure to act. But that comfort comes at a cost. It robs you of progress. When you stop looking for someone to blame, you start looking for solutions. You shift from why me to what now, and that simple shift in perspective is the difference between being stuck and moving forward. Every trial you faced wasn't just there to hurt you. It came to teach you something. It came to shape you into someone stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The question is whether you will take the lesson or waste it. People often mistake growth for something that just happens over time, as if aging automatically makes you wiser. It doesn't. Growth is a choice. You can go through the same pain 10 times and never learn a thing if you refuse to face it. Or you can go through it once, take the lesson, and never have to live that same struggle again. When you decide to grow, you stop running from discomfort and start leaning into it. You start asking better questions. Not how can I avoid pain, but what is this pain teaching me? Not how can I make this easier, but how can I become stronger so this no longer feels hard? This is the mindset shift that separates those who stay stuck from those who move forward. And here's the beautiful part. Once you begin to grow in this way, people notice. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You don't react to every small problem like it's the end of the world because you've faced bigger storms and survived. Your confidence doesn't come from pretending you have no weaknesses. It comes from knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. You trust yourself. And when you trust yourself, you move with a kind of quiet power that no one can take from you. Growth also changes your relationship with fear. Fear stops being a brick wall and starts being a doorway. You understand that fear only shows up when you're standing at the edge of something important, something that could change your life. And instead of letting it stop you, you learn to walk through it. Fear becomes a signal that you're on the right track because you're moving towards something that matters. Taking responsibility for your life is not about controlling everything. You can't control every event, every person, every outcome, but you can control your response. You can choose your attitude. You can choose whether a setback becomes the end of the story or just a plot twist. That choice is where your freedom lies. This is why ownership feels so different from blame. Blame is a dead end. Ownership is a doorway. The moment you take ownership, you give yourself permission to try again, to rebuild, to start fresh. You don't have to wait for circumstances to align perfectly. You just take the next step, and then the next, and then the next. Over time, this consistent action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds more action, and before you know it, you've turned a season of struggle into a season of transformation. You've turned pain into progress. You've turned fear into fuel. That is the power of taking responsibility. It's not just about control, it's about creation. It's about choosing to be the builder of your life instead of the tenant, about being the author instead of the reader, about being the driver instead of the passenger. And once you've tasted that kind of freedom, once you've felt what it's like to stand tall and know that you are in charge of what happens next, you will never want to go back to the days of waiting, blaming, and hoping someone else will make it better. Because you'll know the truth. No one can live your life for you, and no one can take the power you've decided to claim. It came to build you. Hear me when I say this. You are blessed no matter what. Not because life is perfect, not because the sky is always clear or the road is always smooth, but because even in the middle of the mess, you can still find something to be grateful for. That, right there, is what separates those who barely make it through from those who rise above. Gratitude is not just a polite thank you whispered when life hands you a gift. It is a deep, soul-rooted strength that can turn ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. It's what pulls light into darkness, what brings peace into chaos, and what gives your heart fuel to keep going when the world says you should give up. We live in a time where it's easy to be consumed by what's missing. It's easy to focus on the empty chair at the dinner table, the unpaid bills stacked on the counter, the dreams that seem to have been put on hold indefinitely, the promises that were broken, or the mistakes from yesterday that feel too heavy to carry into tomorrow. And if you're honest with yourself, there are days when the storm feels endless, when the weight of everything makes you question whether the sun will ever shine again. But even in the storm, blessings exist. They may be small, they may be quiet, but they are there waiting to be seen. Do you have a roof over your head tonight? That's not something to overlook. Millions of people would give anything for that kind of safety. Do you have food on your table, no matter how simple? That is not a small thing. It is a gift. Do you have fresh air in your lungs? That's life itself flowing through you. Do you have people who love you, or perhaps even more powerful? Do you have the ability to love yourself in the moments you feel least worthy? That is rare. That is holy. And if you can see that, if you can feel that, then you are already standing on ground more solid than you realize. Gratitude is not a feeling that magically appears when life finally gives you what you want. It's a decision, a choice, and it's one of the most powerful choices you will ever make. Anyone can be grateful when everything is going right. That's easy, but deep, soul-shaking gratitude is built in the middle of storms, in the middle of tears, in the middle of uncertainty. It's forged in the moments when you look at life, not as you wish it was, but as it is, and still choose to say, thank you. Gratitude is an anchor. When the waves of life crash hard and threaten to pull you away, gratitude is what holds you steady. It's what keeps you from drifting into hopelessness. It's what reminds you that even if you can't control the storm, you can control your focus. And if your focus stays on what's still good, still pure, still worth fighting for, you will find the strength to keep moving. But here's the thing. Gratitude is not passive. It's not just a warm, fuzzy thought you have before bed. It is an active practice, something you cultivate and nurture every day, especially when you least feel like it. You have to seek out the good like a miner searching for gold, even when your circumstances try to convince you it's not there. You have to look for the one light in a room full of shadows. You have to choose to count blessings, even when problems seem louder. And something happens when you live this way. Gratitude changes you. It changes the way you see the world, the way you talk, the way you treat others, and most importantly, the way you treat yourself. You stop walking through life like it owes you something and start moving through life like it's a gift you've been entrusted with. You stop complaining about what's missing and start building with what's in your hands. Gratitude has a strange power. It multiplies what you value. The more you focus on the good, the more you see it. The more you honor what you already have, the more room you create for new blessings to arrive. It's not magic, it's perspective, and perspective is everything. Two people can go through the same storm, face the same loss, endure the same struggle, and one will grow bitter while the other grows stronger. The difference is gratitude. When you live in gratitude, you no longer define yourself by what you've lost. You define yourself by what you've learned, by what you've gained in strength, in patience, in resilience. You start to see how every difficulty shaped you, how every closed door redirected you, how every season of lack taught you to value abundance when it came. Gratitude turns wounds into wisdom and endings into beginnings. And that's when you step into the final truth. You are becoming the person you want to be, not someday in the far-off future, not when everything finally lines up perfectly. You are becoming that person now, in the middle of the journey, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the work no one else sees. Every choice you make, every perspective you hold, every moment you choose gratitude over bitterness is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, braver. Becoming is not about waking up one day and realizing you've arrived. It's about showing up every day and realizing you're closer than you were yesterday. It's about catching yourself when you want to complain and instead choosing to notice the small good thing that happened today. It's about forgiving yourself for yesterday's mistakes and deciding to do better today. It's about refusing to let the past dictate your future and believing that the person you are becoming is worth the struggle it takes to get there. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know exactly what the next 10 years look like. You just have to keep becoming, keep showing up, keep learning, keep adjusting. You have to trust that the work you're doing now, even when it feels invisible, is shaping you into the kind of person who can handle the life you're praying for. And here's the beautiful part: gratitude and becoming feed each other. The more grateful you are, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more grateful you become. It's a cycle that strengthens you, sustains you, and keeps you moving forward no matter what storms come your way. You start to realize that life isn't happening to you. It's happening for you, shaping you into someone who doesn't just survive, but thrives. So, even in the hardest moments, even in the seasons where you feel like you're walking through fire, remember this: you are blessed. Not because the fire doesn't burn, but because you are becoming someone who can walk through it and come out stronger on the other side. And that, more than anything else, is worth being grateful for.